Yikes.
Oh, it's so funny.
Yikes.
Or daddy-in-law, I think. I don't know.
Daddy-in-law.
But it's a little kid with Jared Kushner's face, so it's a small body. It's brilliant. Go watch it.
It sounds very interesting. There's no two ways about that. Well, hey, everybody, welcome.
Just because you're wearing a tie doesn't mean you get to.
You know, and there's a reason for that. But welcome first to the Reverend and the Reprobate.
Do we do that still? I'm Dan Gibson.
Bum, 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 bum.
Here, as always, with my co-host and the guy who plays bass for me, Lucas Pinckard.
I've not gotten you to play guitar for me in a really long time.
It's coming.
If you can even know how to do it
It's coming, though.
With us tonight, we have a special guest that's coming on to help us interview tonight's guest for the show.
We've got the attractive Pinckard brother.
Yes, we do. This is my brother, Matt. Matt is, let's see, are you 15 months younger than me?
Something like that.
Yeah, right.
Math.
Yeah.
Just say over a year.
Well, but it's
slightly
just
over a year.
Yeah, we were almost Irish twins until we weren't.
That's true.
Yeah, that's exactly how that works.
accurate.
So,
what is an Irish twin?
it is two children that are born within a 12-month period.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like it was a particularly cold winter?
Or something.
The math on that doesn't work. Anyway, we're excited to have Matt here because tonight we're interviewing David Baker. We brought Matt with us, not just because he's my brother and has a load of intellect that we do not have, but also in the subject matter we want to talk to David Baker about. Matt is a blacksmith and bladesmith of sorts, though you can tell by
Amateur.
that. Yeah, you can tell by that look that he would say no. I've got some really awesome stuff that Matt's made for me. And I consistently use it to chop the wood and things like that around the house. I've also got a smaller knife that
Can you confirm that it does cut?
It does. It will cut.
Yeah.
It will chop. And
it will kill.
It's killed before.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've used it to the hand axe that you made. I've actually used.
It's a Forged in Fire reference
for
people who know
the
me.
best way to put it to help a chicken be put out of its misery. Whenever we had some chicks that were going through the stuff with coccidiosis, and they were like there was no coming back.
And
there was no amount.
They wanted to just end
stuff.
it.
Euthanize.
You assisted them.
Murder.
Yeah, yeah, all of that.
Yeah,
right. But
harvest. Harvest is the term that the vegetarians don't like us to use because it's an animal.
Yeah, well, we weren't. I mean, obviously, I didn't get anything from them. They were chicks,
right?
But it was the humane thing to do. And so we did that, and I used
anyone that knows me knows that I think that chickens aren't real.
Yeah,
as a part of the birds aren't real.
Yeah.
Conspiracy.
Also, our man in the other room.
Oh yeah,
Kyle. What's up, Kyle?
Hi there.
Streaming from the bathroom.
Not true.
So we've got a little bit of a different setup tonight. Kyle is. He's in the producer's chair.
Far, far away.
No, you're not. We can see you, but our audience can't.
Hi, Kyle.
Are you trying to figure out how to use that
I was going to
mug?
put some reverb on there.
My fingers just don't fit in there.
Yeah, they don't.
It's the manliest coffee cup, except that a man's fingers don't fit.
Yeah. It's like the secret of coffee cups. Strong enough for a man, but made for a woman.
Yeah.
That's really what it is. So I'm excited about
it's designed for men, but it's designed for punching men in the face.
Yeah. Yeah, to be used on men.
Yeah.
Yep. So I'm really excited to have David Baker on. When Danley and I were booking our fall schedule, he was like one of my dream guests to have on.
I'll say he was numero uno.
I was going to say,
yeah.
We were at your place and talking about doing this whole thing.
Yeah, he was the first guy that I was like, if we could get David Baker on,
yes,
I would feel like we are doing something pretty special. And
mine is Kevin Conroy.
Yeah.
And maybe Trey Parker.
You are
shooting for the stars.
Right. An interesting set of stars.
Yeah.
But I don't think those stars are aligned.
Like with our podcast for
no,
Christians?
No, just like Conroy maybe. I think Conroy maybe. I think Parker might have some interesting
Dude, I just
stuff
think
to
he's
say.
one of the funniest people on the planet.
Kevin Conroy?
No.
Oh. Kevin Conroy is... Do you know who Kevin Conroy is?
I don't.
Kevin Conroy is the voice of Batman from Batman the Animated
He basically
series.
is Batman and all the video games.
I still...
When you hear...
In that case, I have heard.
Yeah,
Yeah.
keep going
Yeah.
with it right now.
Yeah, that's true.
He is Batman.
Every day after school for years and years,
Yes.
we heard Kevin Conroy. I
But yeah,
also
David
think
Baker.
I think that still the best Batman, hands down, Will Arnett. Lego Batman is still my most favorite iteration of Batman. I think he is the most useful
I think he's the
most
funniest
clever,
for sure.
and probably the most true to the character. No,
I think-
I don't want to do that.
I think it does. It really explores a portion of the character that nobody else has. I will agree fully with that.
Yeah.
That he's the only one that's really tackled the. I mean, I don't think they've made a comedy that I'm aware of with Batman in it.
Maybe Batman Forever.
How it should have ended.
Yeah, or how it should have ended.
Yeah, but
Speaking of which, I know Daniel. We need to get Daniel to come
Let's
on.
do it.
you know what? We were talking about this
Yeah,
long
no, I
ago.
thought about it
the how it
recently.
should have ended
Yes.
guy. Yeah.
But tonight's episode with David Baker,
Yes.
we've been looking forward to for at least months.
Yeah, so we talked to him originally in July. He had posted some stuff. He was moving out to Virginia, which is where they're shooting the new Forged in Fire episodes. And during that time, we'd reached out to him. I wanted to talk to him about some of the stuff he had posted on social media because he is very, he operates with a very strict kind of code of honor, which I find
It aligns with his
It-
profession.
It totally
and,
aligns with the
and how he
profession
presents
stuff that he
himself,
does.
and that's why you went as him as Halloween.
Agreed. So it aligns a lot with what he does and where he comes from, but it's also he phrases things in a way that they are thought provoking,
Mhm.
but they're also there's a bit of reproach in there, in a sense of like, I'm saying this because you're not acting right, and so I'm going to phrase this in a way that lets you know I disapprove of this, but you can still follow me on Facebook.
You're gonna know my disapproval in as few words as possible.
Yeah, and it's been really, really great to see some of that. He did have Matt and I experienced when we were in junior high, our house burned down. David, his home in Los Angeles was one of the ones that was in the path of the fires in California last year, and he ended up losing some things. And similarly to us, we didn't lose a lot of stuff from the fire itself, but the smoke damage and the water damage were so bad afterwards,
Right.
because the firefighters, and I can't say enough great things about the first responders, but we lost a lot of stuff because in order to save, not our house was a total loss, but to save the houses around us, they had to just completely drench so many things. And there were pictures, there were all of our how many Ninja Turtles did we have?
Buckets. And
Yeah.
buckets.
Yeah, we had this giant purple tub of Ninja Turtles that ended up just being
Like a 20
How much-
gallon tub.
it was huge.
How much square footage of your house was occupied by Ninja Turtles?
Like post fire? Because post fire,
No,
it was
pre-fire.
like tiled with Ninja Turtles in our room because it was all melted. So there's some things like that I'm curious about. Obviously, the way that I'm dressed tonight was very David Baker influenced. But we
I just
also
wish you would have told me, because I would have done it too.
Yeah, well, it's my birthday. I get to do what I want.
That's true.
Yeah.
Happy
a
birthday,
party.
happy birthday,
Happy-
buddy.
Yeah,
Happy
happy
birthday.
birthday.
Yeah. So when this airs, it will be not my birthday, and you guys can figure that out if y'all
And
become
then
Facebook
you'll be
friends
the
with
only
me.
one dressed nice not on your birthday.
Yeah, probably so.
That's true.
Yeah. that I'm willing to live with. So, in just a few minutes, David Baker is gonna hop on with us. We're really excited to have him. We're excited that you guys get to be a part of this interview. Matt, thanks very much for coming on.
Yes.
For bringing some extra insight, like already in the pre-show, as we've been talking about questions. You've brought up several things that Danley and I would have just looked like.
Yeah.
It's what kind of carbon is the best kind of carbon?
How sharp
Kind with carbon
must
in it.
how sharp must knife be to cut?
Yeah, when I hold the knife with a pointy end, it seems that I get a lot of blood drawn.
Yeah.
Where can I change that? What's the
Yeah.
proper way? So, Matt's the carbon thing was a legit thing though, because there's
Mhm.
only one type of carbon, and that is the elemental carbon.
Mhm.
And Matt's like, no, that's not the question you want to ask. You want to ask about carbon content. You want to ask about the type of steel. Oh,
Sweet.
cool.
We actually do
Edge
have something else to
retention.
talk about.
Okay.
that we haven't yet because you haven't been on is the whole chicken thing that we've talked and talked.
Oh
and
yeah,
talked
we've
and talked
talked
and
about
talked and
Pink
talked.
Moon Farms, but we haven't actually talked about
So we've
how
had
the chicken process is going.
probably 10, 15 chicken updates. Hashtag chicken updates. Hashtag chickens aren't real.
Yep.
Depending on which one of us you're talking to.
Yeah.
They exist. Chickens. They're real.
But Kyle, I appreciate the sound effects.
welcome.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the whole point is you were onboarding chickens
Yes.
and then sending them to Pink Moon Farms, and we've got the head farmer over here from Pink Moon
From
Farms.
Pink Moon Farms. Yeah, well, we'll catch up on that after the David Baker interview, which is coming right up. So thank you guys for watching. We hope you enjoy the interview, and we will see you afterwards. Today, the man, the myth, the legend, historic weapons recreation specialist, and the guest that I said when we first started the show, if we can get this guy on, I will feel like we've done something. We've made an accomplishment. It's David Baker he is the face of Forged in Fire.
Yep.
And,
Thank you.
Yeah. The new episodes of which start on November the 18th. You start season 8.
Yeah, season 8.
Yeah.
I mean, we're the little show that could. I mean,
so
we started with 10 shows. We were picked up the first episode, or the first season was 10 shows, and it was kind of a filler, and it just kept getting bigger. So
what year was that it aired? Do you remember?
I think we've been doing this 5 years now.
Okay, because I remember I was telling Lucas earlier that I don't really care for reality TV or any of that kind of stuff, but I was stuck on a plane. And I went through American Airlines, the things that they had. This was 5 years ago. It had to have been 5. And I saw Forged in Fire, and I went, "What is that?" And I was instantly intrigued by the creating of weapons, and that's the competition. It's awesome.
Yeah, Matt had just started talking to me about blacksmithing, and I saw the advertisements for the show. And after episode 1, I was hooked. I have watched every episode of Forged in Fire. I really think you guys did some interesting stuff in the last season, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But I also will say that Dave has inspired my attire that I preach in. We had a really difficult time. So I used to just wear like flannels and jeans, and the people in the church, whenever they voted me in as pastor, they were like, "Look, we would love to buy you some nice clothes." And I was like, "Okay." They're like, so is there a style that you would like? And I was like, you know what? There's this guy on Forged in Fire. Yeah, if you want to get me some vests and some nice shirts, I will wear that. And so this is how the people in the church have come to see me on Sunday mornings. I will always preach in a vest and a shirt because I saw David Baker, and I was like, you know what? That's a way that you can kind of keep an edge but still look like a gentleman. So I've appreciated that.
Now you just got to up your.
My dad was a Brooks Brothers guy. He was a full on business guy, labor union trust fund negotiator.
Oh wow!
So I mean, when he went to work, he was like in the suit, the button downs with the ties and everything else. And when he played tennis, he was in the perfect tennis stuff. And when he went skiing, he was in the perfect. My dad was a fashion plate, and he once explained it to me. He said, when you're going somewhere in public with other people, it's not necessarily about you looking your best. It's about respecting the people around you by just cleaning your junk up.
Makes sense. I mean? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So when you're going to sit on a plane with a bunch of people, don't wear your pajamas.
Yeah.
I don't want to sit next to you in your pajamas unless we're dating. It's like
definitely take a shower and clean your junk up before you do that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I went to see a musical on Broadway a couple of years ago, and I'm sitting next to a guy in a t-shirt and his cargo shorts and his flip flops, and I'm like,
Kyle?
No, not quite. Not quite.
Well played. But no, it's just a matter of I think that you show a little bit of respect to the people around you when you take the time to put yourself together a little bit. I mean, 90% of the time I'm covered in forged dust and in a t-shirt that's got a hole burnt in the belly and sweat marks.
That's what I'm talking about. You dress for your job and your position. That's what I do. So you give me a hard time.
it's one of those things.
So you mentioned dressing to respect those around you. Lucas mentioned that he dresses inspired by some of your attire.
Yes.
The only thing that you're lacking so far is the mustache game.
Well, I do not have quite the mustache game that I wish, which my wife is okay with for now, but we did have some questions. We had some family members that we were polling for some questions, and we obviously, all three of us have beards. What kind of mustache products are we using, and how do we get the nice twirl at the end?
Well, okay, there's actually wax on it from today. Man, it looks like hell, but I wax the mustache usually to get it dialed in and to do the big swoop. But you also got to commit to that thing's long.
Oh wow!
Some length.
You got to commit to not cutting it. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly.
Yeah,
and you got to be careful because you're shaving down here underneath all this junk, and you try not to cut it off. Every once in a while, something gets trimmed drastically by mistake, and then you're back to square one. But I do wax the thing. I do use the beard balm.
Oh, nice.
Well, I don't know about you, but every once in a while the skin on your chin gets a little dried out underneath the beard, just from the soap and everything else. That really helps with that stuff. So, grooming products.
Yeah.
Again, take the time. You will feel better about yourself if you do a little bit of grooming.
Well, David Baker did put the man in gentleman. That's what we've determined here on this show. So to talk a little bit about your journey in particular, you went from stuntman to historic weapons recreation specialist. You've got photography hobbies. You are a motorcycle enthusiast. There seems like there's a lot there to unpack. How did you get into not just blacksmithing, but into such a specific area of historic weapons recreation specialist?
Well, not growing up helped a lot.
Okay. Okay.
I started in the entertainment industry in 1980 when I left my hometown of Riverside, California, and moved to Hollywood, which was like a 60-mile move.
Yeah, it's not that far, except during traffic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
9 hours later.
Well, yeah, in LA traffic today. Back then, not so bad. So I started as an actor. Moved to Hollywood I was studying dance at the time.
What?
It was the 80s. You could actually make a living as a dancer. Did a lot of work through the early 80s as an actor. And eventually just was so, after my son was born, it was looking for work. I mean, you spend your entire life looking for work when you're an actor. You might make a lot of money on a gig, but the gig takes a week to film, and then you're looking for work again.
Yeah.
So it's like constantly being unemployed. And that kind of stress when I had a young son, I had my son when I was 26, it was just a lot. So I left the industry and, God, what did I do? Oh, that was the next career. Of course, the entire time I was acting, I was working in the restaurant industry. So I was managing restaurants, and then I went to work at a landscape company with a partner. Did that for 5 years. Got back into the restaurant industry. Opened 5-6 restaurants for a couple of different companies, and during that entire time, I was still. I was teaching actors how to fight. So I was teaching theatrical combat. And there wasn't a lot of places to find the weapons to use to teach. So eventually I knew how to weld, so I kind of made some. They were really rough. And then that snowballed. I did a production and a Shakespeare production. I did the weapons for it, and the production coming behind us was another Shakespeare production. They said, "Well, can you do the weapons for us?" I said, "Well, yeah, you're paying me." Really? So that started to snowball, and then I went to work for a set company, a set design and prop company. Built sets and was a lead man for them for a number of years. And that gave me the opportunity to travel around and do some really fun stuff. I mean, I was in 2001, the VH1 Music Awards.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you remember the giant Missy Elliott head.
Yes.
I was inside that. I am the crack. I was the cracker in the wrapper.
That is awesome. So your milkshake was bringing the boys to the yard.
Eyes and the jaw and the smoke and everything else.
That's wild.
So and I did a bunch of those crazy kind of things like that. I did Hunter S. Thompson's funeral.
What did you do at Hunter Thompson's funeral?
Yeah, I was the site liaison for the construction team that built the monument.
Oh, wow. See, he's a guy that I'm completely fascinated with. I read Hell's Angels when I was probably in 7th grade, and then just ran through every bit of his work that I could put my hands on.
Yeah, I didn't get him until someone told me that you have to, he writes in the spoken language, so you have to kind of read him aloud.
Yeah.
You have to give the character a voice in your head, and then everything flows so much better. An amazing yet somehow tragic character as a person, kind of trapped by his myth.
Yeah.
But yeah, so did jobs like that. They were a lot of fun. Did a bunch of videos for Missy Elliott. Did stuff, Home Shopping Network. I was bounced all around the place. I built the home studio or was part of the team that built the home studio for the country music station in Nashville.
Really?
Country Network. Yeah, their home studio. We built that in Nashville. So did a lot of that. And then through that, developed my own prop company specializing in the historical weapons. And that kind of took off in 2000 when I did a show. I love this. I did a show called Queen of Swords. And sorry, let me get that camera. Queen of Swords was, I think it was on Fox.
Okay.
It was like a female Zorro thing.
Kind of a Xena warrior type.
Yeah, but California, 1800s. And it was hilarious because she's the only girl with those kind of curves in the entire town.
Yeah.
And then she puts a piece of underwear on her head and nobody recognizes her.
It's like clearly that's.
I just looked it up. All 22 episodes.
I'm pretty sure this masked character is Kim Kardashian.
I loved it. It was fun. I didn't go to Spain to film it, but I was building things in California and shipping them to Spain. I sent my mother a text or an email telling her that her son had finally become an international arms dealer.
That's awesome.
I like to say, in my career, I jokingly say I failed in an upward direction.
I can relate to that.
I did a career for a while and it didn't work out, but I learned a lot in it. And then I did a career for a while and it didn't work out, and I learned a lot from it. And I did a career, but they kept getting better. The career path was an upward trajectory of failures.
Well, it sounds like a lot of fun. Making weapons for a living seems like a nice thing to fall into.
Man, literally, it's like, it's a passion. When I was a kid, if I picked up a stick, it was a sword. If I went to a museum, I was pressing my face against the glass, looking at the knights in armor. And now I've had the opportunity to get behind the glass and actually pick up the real deals and study them. And then my job now is to literally recreate them. So I can't imagine a better job for me than this show, in that I get to make the weapons that I want to have anyway. I get to play with them, and I get to watch other people try to make them. So, and then comment on it. It's like, wow.
So what's
and they pay me to do it. Yeah. That's the cool thing.
That is a pretty awesome perk.
I know, yeah, because this is what I did when I was at home anyway. Before they paid me, I'd look at other people's work, comment about it, make my own toys, and play with them. So
yeah, I also am a critic of other things, but I don't get paid to do it. That painting's bad.
Yeah, Art and I don't get along. It's one of those things, and I try to be very careful about it, in that I don't do any kind of critiquing or criticizing of people's work outside of the show.
Yeah.
All I try to do is inspire them to make more of it.
So that actually does bring me to one question. Not critiquing someone else's work, but is there any movie that you as a passion for making weapons, that some historical movie that you look at and you go, man, I wish I could have been a part of that, because I would have done, I would have made a really awesome spear or whatever weapon.
Yeah. I mean, wow. See, I got a lot of friends in the stunt industry. You said I was a stuntman earlier. I try to say I'm not a stuntman because I've done stunts. I've worked under stunt contract, but I know guys who light themselves on fire and throw themselves out of windows for a living.
Yeah.
Those guys are stuntmen. Those guys and girls. I know women who can do that exact same thing and make a fight look so intense. That's not what I do. So calling me a stunt person is stretching the truth. So I'll stay away from that. But no, there's a lot of films out there that that I think would not have been hurt if they had stuck with more of a historical base. I mean, certain weapons only do certain things. You can't make them do other things. It's like, small swords do not cut ropes. It doesn't happen. I mean, you can sit there and saw at it for a while, but swords don't chop through armor. There's a lot of
what does chop through armor?
What's that?
What does chop through armor?
Oh, war hammers do a really good job. Just the pick on the back of them. Picks, axes, some of them. Sharp, pointy things with a lot of weight behind them.
So it's like a big, heavy spear or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. There are certainly types that are designed to poke holes in European armor. So I always think that if you try to stay closer to history and reality, you actually wind up with a better story that makes a lot more sense, as opposed to, magically running through people and chopping them down. If you're doing fantasy, great. Throw the magic in. Swords do wonderful things in fantasy movies. Yes. Super.
I
but
agree.
If you're trying to tell a historically accurate story, and you've got all your bad guys dressed in chainmail and some guy with a dinky little sword is chopping them all in half, it's just not. It's not.
So best lie has an element of truth.
Never let the truth get in the way of a good story.
That's right. Yeah.
So we shouldn't give lightsabers to hoplites. Is that what you're telling me?
Well, I mean, if you were doing, hoplites in space, sure, I'm good. I'm down with that. I mean, I think that's kind of cool. It's just one of those things. It's one of those arguments that we have. We go back and forth with. There's certainly those arguments happen on the show all the time. I mean, the reality of what an Italian longsword is compared to what people think it is. We often have smiths come back with weapons that are 2-3 pounds heavier than what they should be.
So tell us about the process a little bit on that, because you mentioned you got to see museum pieces, but on artifacts where you don't have a museum piece to go off of, you're very measured with your responses, which I really appreciate. So how do you quantify something like that and give those parameters?
Well, the first thing I do is, I'll be sent a picture from production. They say, we're going to do this. And I'll go, let's not do that. And they'll go, no, we're doing this. And we go back and forth with that for a while. Then I'll do as much research as I can. There are a lot of sources out there that will give you weights and measurements on the various weapons. Some things you can sort of extrapolate from. If you get detailed pictures from multiple angles, you can figure out how thick something is based on the length and the size and everything else. But ideally, you get a weight and a measurement off of whatever source you can find, and try to hit multiple sources. So, sometimes things are just ridiculous. I mean, you get these weights and you're like, it's impossible. Right. Things weighs more than a truck lid.
So is that something you provide to the contestants as a weight? Because I noticed on a lot of episodes, 20-pound sword, and it's supposed to be held one-handed.
Yeah. We do give them a suggested weight.
Okay.
It's not a parameter.
Gotcha.
And you know how sticklers we are with parameters, sending people home all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But we try to limit the parameters to length, and so we get two weapons that are generally the same size. If a smith wants to build something that's 8 pounds, thinking it's going to be stronger and better, well, they've made something that's virtually unusable. So now my hand kind of drifts into. Again, without seeing him, the first time I picked up a Scottish basket hilt sword, a real one, I was amazed at how light it was. And I had picked up really good replicas, but they were nothing like the real thing. And I mean, my jaw dropped. Everything. I mean, I went home, threw everything I knew out the window, and then tried to recreate that weapon at that weight, at that balance, and everything else. And it was difficult to do. But it was a game changer. And so trying to, when I say recreate historical weapons, that's what I'm trying to do. I mean, I might not use the same techniques or the same materials, but I'm trying to recreate them as a representation of the original that can be used. You know what I mean?
So how
you can make something that looks great, but it's a wall hanger. It's not ever going to be used. Making something that is the proper weight, balance, and everything else that feels good in your hand, that's the key.
So that particular weapon, you said you had held the replicas that were much heavier, and then that one you finally got to hold an authentic one, and it was lighter, and you tried to recreate it. What was the special sauce for you that you figured out? Yeah, this feels like the original. Did you? How many?
Wow. There were a bunch of things, especially, like I said, with the Scottish basket hilts. I actually went to Scotland a couple of years ago after having that experience. Went to Scotland to study those weapons. There were so many things that were not. What's that?
I said that sounds terrible. Going to Scotland to study weapons.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. And the Scottish people are so cool, and the museums there are so cool as well.
I would love to go. You've been?
Yeah, I have.
It's like, if you had called yesterday, we would have taken it out of the cabinet for you. Like,
oh man.
I can't wait to get back. I was going to go back this year, and then of course COVID happened, and we as Americans obviously aren't responsible enough to be allowed to travel. So here we are.
It sort of ruined all of our plans for travel, amongst other things. Yeah. So what has been your favorite weapon that you've gotten to create for the show? Because I don't know if our listeners know this, but all of the weapons that the contestants have to replicate, you actually have made, which is incredible.
That was one of those things when we started the show. I tried to get the producers to contact the Met, since we were filming in Brooklyn. I thought, man, we can get examples of all these weapons from the Met and put them up on and publicize the Met's collection as well as everything else. Well, a lot of those weapons seem to be, I guess, in private collections, and if they leave the Met, they've got to be insured and have a docent traveling with them and security and everything else.
Good grief.
It's a huge thing. And of course, we wouldn't be able to use them. We wouldn't be able to do any of the testing with them.
Right.
So I said, well, I'll tell you what, I'll build the weapons. That way we can test them. But beyond testing them, we can make sure that our tests aren't just there to destroy weapons. You know what I mean? If my weapon can't go through the test, how can I honestly ask another smith to make this weapon to go through a test that is going to destroy your weapon? And some of our tests, I think, are far too destructive, but that's a production argument that I have on a regular basis. So,
and you're referring to like the hog test and the wood test,
the
final test with the weapons, where we have the kill, the strength, and the sharpness test. Yeah. And I try to fight to make sure that those tests are somewhat appropriate for the weapon. In that, if you've got a Middle Eastern sword that's light, fast, and meant to cut people who weren't wearing any armor, doing a strength test where you're chopping bricks might not be the
that makes sense.
That might not be the most appropriate test for the weapon.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
I can't think of very many weapons that would have been put up to an ice block chop.
Well, I mean, but the thing is with the ice block chop is you're going against a dynamic surface that blows up, and it's super specular, and it looks so amazing on television. And it's tough in that, the ice isn't going to get out of the way. But at the same time, if the sword is properly made and properly tempered and done right, well, the ice isn't going to break it.
Mm-hmm.
Weapons break on ice because there's a flaw in the weapon.
Yeah.
Not because ice is stronger than steel.
Mm-hmm.
So
what is?
It happens to me all the time. All my weapons break on ice.
So what is your favorite weapon that you've made so far?
Favorite. Man, I'm really partial to sabers, and we've done a lot of different kinds of sabers.
Mm-hmm. I just watched the one with George Washington's thing that is a word I
can't
pronounce.
The Cutto. Yeah, the lion head Cutto.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a nice weapon. It's nice, fat. It's fast. It's just a hanger. It's not huge. So I maybe the Indian tulwar is one of my favorites because the handle and guard takes so much work and detail, and it's a saber that looks really heavy, but it's not because it's just paper thin.
Ooh,
they're just cool. Like this giant wicked razor blade that hacks things to pieces. There's a series of books. One of them is Swordsman in Time of the Raj, and they're all about first-hand accounts of British swordsmen in India during the late 17 and early 1800s. So it's fascinating to see what these swords are, read about what these swords were capable of doing in the hands of professionals. So I'll throw the tulwar in there.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's an acceptable answer.
Long answer to get to one word, but.
So we're talking swords. What's your favorite type of steel to actually forge with, and then not just forge with, but also use? And if that's different, why?
I've become a huge fan of 80 CRV2, which is a newer steel. It's not new, but it's sort of the replacement for 5160 spring steel. It moves beautifully under the hammer. It's very forgiving, and it is incredibly durable. You can layer it up with a 15 and 20 to get like a Damascus pattern, so it works for that. But at the same time, it's an easy steel to work with. It's super durable. It hits that perfect spot between tough and hardenable.
So a lot of those blade steels that are newer, you were saying it's a new steel. They just don't seem to hold an edge, kind of like newer, like the high carbon does. And you brought up the point, it kind of replaces 5160. Which is spring steel. I think that's one of the best steels to work with just because it's so easily accessible for forge people that are coming out, and then the tolerances are higher. But you said that this one actually takes a nickel.
It's a great steel. I mean, 5160 was what I was building most of my blades out of before I was introduced to the 80 CRV2. But 5160 doesn't move well under the hammer. If you've got power tools, it moves great. But hand hammering 5160, it's a slow steel to move. It tempers really well, but it doesn't get very exciting if you try to put a hamon on it or something like that. You just get dead straight hamons. It doesn't necessarily like to weld to other steels very well.
Yeah, Damascus
so it gets
super
limiting,
difficult.
Where the 80 CRV2 doesn't really have any of those issues.
Nice. So, do you have a knife that you every day carry?
Oh, I've got probably a dozen that are in rotation.
What's your favorite one to carry around with you?
The one I use the most or carry the most is just a little roach belly Skinner. Old school, about 4.5 inch blade, big roach belly on it, and kind of a teardrop handle. It's a great all around knife. I filleted out a bunch of. We did a test the other day where we were cutting salmon.
Mm-hmm.
And, so we had these huge 20-pound king salmon, right?
Ooh.
Atlantic salmon.
Yeah.
And Doug made this cut that was like right up near the tail. So there was just like fish that was huge. so I kind of put him in a trash bag and took him home.
Yeah, free sashimi.
Yeah, that's it.
So,
so I've got 40 pounds of salmon in my refrigerator right now.
That's amazing. We were actually talking about that. We were watching an episode last night from what was I think
it was
from
season 3, I think.
Yeah, the Ben's second win, where Ben became the first 2-time champion.
Yes,
and and this hog gets cut in half, and both of us were like, "That would barbecue so well."
I mean, the hogs. The hogs are one of those things that you butcher them, you cook them, then you don't let them sit around.
Yeah, this is true. If it's been sitting around for a while. I still might try to throw some paprika at it.
Around out in the sun. We've had a couple of incidents where the test medium was a little riper than we might want them to be.
Yeah, I don't want to eat that.
Yeah,
pass.
Yeah.
Well, you hang a pig out in the sun, and then they set up the lighting, and then they set up the camera angles, and then they do walkthroughs, and we do the clean reads and everything else. By the time you get to cutting it, it's been out in the sun for a while.
Yeah, okay, valid point.
Yeah. So
the pigs actually go to a wolf sanctuary.
Oh, sweet.
That's cool.
In upstate New York. So all that meat from the pigs, the boars, the goats. Anytime we cut any of those things, a truck comes down from the wolf sanctuary. That's I forgotten the name. I'm sorry. I wish I knew it. They're in upstate New York, and they pick up that meat and then feed it out to the wolf.
And you guys film in Virginia, right? This isn't in L.A.
No. We're in Connecticut.
Oh, okay. I thought Virginia.
I live in Virginia. My farm is in Virginia. So I bought a farm. I bought a farm last year and moved from California to Virginia, but we work in Connecticut.
And do you make all of the weapons? We talked about you make the weapons for the show. Do you make that at your home forge in Virginia, or do you make that on site somewhere?
No. Our schedule is such that they'll say, "Hey, like this season," they say, "Hey, we got 50 shows." Yay, cool. And then I say, "Well, great. Let's pick the weapons and I can get started." And they go, "Okay, great."
They don't go, "Here's your 50 weapons. You have a year to make it."
No. So then we go back and forth, and then we get to where we're about a week and a half out, and they go, "Okay, here's the first 20."
Oh, nice.
That's how production.
I managed to do about 5 or 6 of them in my home forge before I left for Connecticut, and then the rest of them I literally do. Like I had Sunday off. I did a couple of weapons on Sunday. I've got the weekend off this weekend, and I'll take one of those days and do a couple of weapons. I having been in the entertainment industry and worked on deadlines, I've learned to work very, very fast.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that everybody goes, "Well, do you get the same time the Smiths get?" Well, I wish I did. But if you think about that, 50 weapons, the Smiths get 4 days per weapon. Okay, that's 200 days. If we're shooting 11 months out of the year, which I think we're 10 months. We're shooting 10 months out of the year.
Good
so,
grief.
I mean, there's not enough days to do all the weapons and shoot the show. So I kind of get the days off to make weapons. I go in sometimes early in the morning and make weapons. But with COVID, we've got new restrictions, so it's been a bit trying, to say the least.
Do you think that the COVID could survive the forge? You think it?
I actually had a doctor tell me that I was so toxic that COVID couldn't survive me. But
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's metal. I don't sweat anymore. I rust. It's difficult. It's really hard. I mean, the Smiths commit so much to come work on our show with the time commitment and everything else, and only one of them gets to go home with a prize. So keeping them safe is so much more important than the show in general. I mean, making sure that their health is a top priority is what we're doing, and it's difficult and it makes our days longer and everything else, but that's fine. I mean, I've lost way too many people to COVID already, and I do not want to lose any more.
Yeah, I was going to ask you. You mentioned a couple times that COVID has impacted the production schedule. So that is that really it? That if a Smith is coming in and they may show symptoms that we halt production, or do you move forward?
They're actually tested before they come out.
Wow.
We go through. We have a COVID unit on set where everybody's temperature is taken first thing in the day. We do contact tracing. We're kept. Our production unit is kept in pods, so it's like the judges and our one PA, or the judges, the host, and our one PA are one pod. The camera crew is another pod. Lighting is their own. The lighting electric is their own thing. Challenge is their own thing, and we try to keep the crossing from one pod to the other. I mean, somebody hands you a weapon, it's been wiped down and sanitized, and when you're done, you better put your wipe down and say, I mean, there's no more skin on my hand.
Yikes.
It's just from all the sanitizer. It makes it difficult, but I love doing the show, and I want new product to be out there. I want to keep people engaged and everything else. And to do that, this is what we have to do. This is the new reality.
Yeah.
Hopefully it won't last forever, but I don't want any of my friends who work on the show to come down with anything, and I certainly don't want any Smith who comes to our show to do something to come down with something.
Yeah.
So we do the work that has to be done.
So speaking of, you were talking about how the things work in pods. There's a lot of rotations, it seemed like, they're on the show, especially with the judges. There will be some episodes where Ben Abbott will be there, and it'll be Ben and Jay and Doug. There have been you had Jason Knight, who was on the show for quite a while. That was subbing in, I believe, whenever Jay was hurt. How do you guys pick which episodes you're going to do? Who's going to test, or who's going to do what test during those episodes? How does that work?
Well, people who breathe more rarefied air than me make those decisions.
Okay.
As far as who works on the show, Ben and Jay do half and half.
Okay.
We've got 50 episodes. Ben's doing 25, and Jay's doing 25. Those decisions came about when Jay couldn't work in the summer. He had his kids.
Yeah.
During the summer, so he wasn't willing to lose that time with them. So they brought in a judge. Originally it was Jay. Originally it was Jason. And Jason did some time on the show and decided it wasn't for him. And then they brought Ben in, and Ben's worked out really, really well. And I think he's a fan, favorite. So the powers that be just said, well, we're just going to split it between the two of you. Now we have 4 judges. We've always got a backup judge. Ben just had a baby, so he's at home doing that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so he came in and did 4 shows and then went home and had a baby.
Yeah,
Man,
well,
that sounds like a lot for him.
Will Willis, I heard, also had a child recently.
Yes, Will had a child. Will's no longer with the show. We have a new host starting with our season 8. So you'll be meeting him soon.
Nice.
Ooh.
So
Will,
Matt had a question about this.
Will seemed to have, a lot of product in his hair. Is it true? Just on I know you can't share everything, but on a scale from 1 to 10.
Okay. No, I'm not bagging on any of my fellow judges or hosts or anything else.
Right.
I work with these guys on a daily basis, and nobody has more product in their hair than me, especially with this long,
so does
long
that come
stuff I've
directly
got right
from
now.
the
I've got
tank
so much crud in here from shooting today. It's like, it sticks to my hands. It's like,
that takes about 30% of our questions away.
Yeah, we're out of questions. They were very Will specific. That is gonna change the dynamic of the show
I'm
quite
sure
a bit.
you can contact Will and he'll answer all your product
Well, I
questions.
had a theory about Doug too, because it seemed like he's injured quite a lot, and I noticed on those episodes you seem to be the one that gets to test. So when is he going to learn to just not challenge you at arm wrestling?
Doug took an injury. Doug took a shoulder injury.
Yeah.
In one of the tests, and I seem to remember that he had a minor injury before, but he ripped his rotator and had to have surgery.
Yeah.
So that's when we brought in Doug's brother and students, his main students from his school, to do his tests for him. And then I filled in, usually doing the sharpness test. So the kill test would have been done by one of Doug's students. They discuss it with him. He'd give the feedback. And then I picked up stuff in the sharpness test.
Yeah, I've been following you and Doug on Facebook for quite a while, and the stuff that guy is able to do with weapons is just incredible. And like his knowledge of, how to use a weapon that I've never heard of, that it sounds like somebody from production just threw to you, and he's like, no, it's probably used this way and this way. And then him talking about how to use the weapons in some of his Facebook videos has just been utterly fascinating.
I mean, this is, Doug's, has his own calling martial art, that he teaches and practices. And, he's done training for the military, and me, I do the historical stuff. So, everybody, I think that's why it's a nice mix. Everybody brings something different to the show. Jay's a ABS master smith, Ben's a blacksmith, as well as a bladesmith. So we all have something that we bring to the show that's different.
Yeah, for sure.
Didn't Jay also hurt himself in one of the tests?
Yeah, Jay's mashed his hand a few times.
Yeah,
Jay had surgery on his hand from an injury he had years ago, and he had a bone graft done. So
I thought that was from an injury, because I know a lot of those tests aren't just brutal on the weapons.
He had the injury and had to have the surgery. And that's when Jason, I think, first came on the show.
Yeah.
When Jay had his surgery and he was out for a while. But, Jay's bumped a couple of things.
Yeah. Yeah, he has. I love my wife and I when we watch the show, we always try to pick out what adverb we think Jay's going to use before he does it. I'm going to hit this mercilessly or viciously or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
All right, which one are we going to go with this time? But he does. I have seen very few people that have tried to, as far as the strength test goes, have really tried to put a blade through its paces, even when I've seen some of the other guys do the strength test, that it really seems like Jay is doing, which I think it's impressive, because he has done some things that have injured him.
And how
one
many
episode
takes
in particular, he hurt his wrist pretty bad. It had to be iced because a blade broke and some things like that.
How many takes do you have to do of,
we don't
wasn't
get to do
recorded.
take. That's it.
You get one take?
Yeah, what you see is what you get. We don't get to practice with the Smith's weapon. We don't get to pre-cut with the Smith's weapon, and we don't do extra tests. You're seeing what we do.
That's pretty awesome.
I think that's one of the things that makes the show rather unique, in that, and sometimes it goes off the rails. I mean, we've had some, mishaps or I'm sure we've all missed targets once or twice, or done cuts that we weren't, 100% happy with. But that's one of those things. If you're making a weapon, it should, you want to be able to pick that weapon up and use it. If there's something wrong with the weapon, whether the handle's designed poorly, whether it's too heavy, or the balance point's way off, there's a million things you can do wrong.
You mentioned
those affect the way you use it. So
you mentioned safety, as the main concern for the contestants that are coming on, for the forgers that are coming on. I didn't even think about COVID when you mentioned it. I was thinking the fire, the weapons, the hammers, all of the things that can really hurt somebody.
We do have a medic on staff, so
Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, people look. Knife making is a game that if you're going to play it, you're going to burn yourself, and you're going to poke yourself, and you're going to cut yourself, and the grinders are going to. I've got holes in my hand right now from the grinder because I was working on it this morning. It happens. We try to mitigate those risks as much as we can by not letting smiths do things that we think are dangerous. There's ways to use the grinders that are not safe, in my opinion. There are tools that we removed from the forge floor because we saw smiths constantly using them improperly, like the buffing wheel.
Oh, wow.
Those are gone. The scariest thing in the shop, buffing wheels and bandsaws. Buffing wheels tend to grab material and throw them.
I've heard of people dying that way, trying to buff a knife out.
I got knocked out in my own shop. Grabbed a pummel out of my hand, bounced off the ceiling, and it hit me on the shoulder right here. And
dang.
I was out.
Wow.
Came to a couple of minutes later on the floor.
Wow.
I can only relate that to my hobby of video games and carpal tunnel. That's my thing I got to watch out for.
Yeah, nearly as
video
dangerous.
Games and I had to abandon video games a lot of years ago.
Because you liked it?
I'm full on ADHD boy.
Yeah.
So I had bought some was some flight simulator game, and I got this really cool joystick with it. And like 3 days later,
yeah,
work was calling, going, dude, where are you? I'm like, I just need to land my plane. I'll be okay.
Then fly.
I've got one more mission.
I'm circling Heathrow. Hold on.
Yeah, so the ability to hyper focus and or obsess on things like video games becomes a real thing.
Yeah, I get it.
What's been your favorite era to study and to look at knives and blades from?
Man, it changes so often. I was deep into the Roman stuff a little while ago. The Scottish stuff, the Scottish stuff's a bit of family tradition thrown in. The fact that I've now been to Scotland and really enjoy that. I started out with primarily rapiers because I was doing the theatrical stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Got into the 18th century English stuff, the English Civil War stuff, or the wars of religion. So the 18th century, mid 1600s through to Napoleon. It like I said, I'll see something and get excited about it, and then try to recreate it, and then just go down the rabbit hole and make a bunch of them.
That seems like such a cool job.
Or try to get the one right. It's like you build it and then take it apart, and then build it, take it apart, and build it and take it apart.
Well, it sounds like through your trial and error of learning how to create historic weapons that you're probably, I'm guessing, very well set for the zombie apocalypse. Is that accurate?
Oh yeah. No, I'm terrifying. If you broke into my house, you just back out slowly.
So what would be your go?
I unlock the door.
What would be your go-to if there's a zombie slowly limping its way?
Scottish basket hilt's good because they can't bite your hand. You can punch them in the head. You can chop them. That's a good one. French partisan, really good. Long pole, big choppy blade at the front. Both a stabby and a choppy blade, so you can lop heads and poke holes at the same time.
Sounds messy but fun.
Yeah,
I mean, especially if it's undone.
Japanese yari, the trident. Just the name just went out of my right out here.
But you said it's a trident of some kind.
Yeah, it's a Japanese trident spear. I'm forgetting it. But
we're gonna have to post up all these pictures.
We're gonna have to throw pictures of these up so people can know what we're talking about.
I mean, pole arms would be a really good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pole arms that you can chop with too.
Yeah, keep them at a distance.
Yeah, like a big Kwando or something where you got this big blade on the end of a pole, and so you can hack them up, but you can poke them and keep them out of range.
Well,
David
you've given
Baker's
me
Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse.
So you've given me so much stuff to think about on
Oh,
that.
I actually worked with the guy who wrote that.
The Walking Dead or the you're talking about this
the guide to the zombie apocalypse.
Is that Max Brooks that did that?
Yeah,
I know that too.
Yep.
Yeah, I worked with him when I was doing Deadliest Warrior.
You did Deadliest Warrior?
Yeah, I did all the weapons for Deadliest Warrior. Yeah,
that's amazing. I saw Legion was on your list. I didn't know.
So
Deadliest
what is Deadliest Warrior?
Okay, so in Legion, the angel has that mace that spins around and opens and closes.
Yes, which I believe is probably very theologically accurate because I want it to be.
So how I got involved was the special effects company that made that mace that had all the moving parts and everything else. Well, it had pneumatic tubes coming out of the back of it and motors in it and everything else. And the director wanted to tear the bar apart using the mace. He wanted to break dishes and plates and glasses and windows and chairs and everything else. And the company that was building the mace had no time. They were only, I think they were 5 days away from shooting. So I got the call and they said, can you duplicate the mace, but do it in aluminum and make it solid? I never say no. So
Right.
I threw a huge number in the air and they said, okay, great. And I'm like, crap, I could ask for so much. And so I spent, 4 days without sleep to make the mace and get it to set. And then so when he's using the mace and it's popping in and out and then the spike comes out and it spins and everything else, that's all that the special effects company's toy. When he starts mashing things to pieces and breaking stuff, that's me.
That's awesome.
That is super cool. I need to go rewatch. I know Paul Bettany.
Bar apart with my mace.
What was it? Paul Bettany that had that? The because he was in Legion.
Yeah,
he was. I mean, spoiler alert.
Whoever the bad angel was.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, that's awesome. You got the bad angel. So the demon.
Yeah.
To
Good
be
guys never have good
theological.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, think about movies, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Shiny swords cut better, but black swords make you deader.
That's true.
And we just saw a black sword on The Mandalorian.
We did, but also if you
I don't
think
know
of
if you
like
have watched that.
of Sauron,
I do.
You watched The Mandalorian?
Of course.
Oh, good man. So I was trying to explain to Danley on Sunday night, because we get together and watch it, what the dark saber was and what the history of that was, and it's so cool that they've brought that piece into The Mandalorian.
Where did I miss the dark saber?
So the dark saber at the end of season 1, the
Gus Fring pulls it out.
Oh, right. Yeah. He's got it hanging off of his back, the bad guy who's falling around, right?
Yeah, so that is the Mandalorian lightsaber from the only Mandalorian Jedi that there ever was. So it's made out of Beskar steel and the whole thing. Now we're talking my language.
And
I've read all the Star Wars books, Dave. I've read every Star Wars book.
and that means he rules Mandalore, right?
That's correct.
Your geek is shining through. And
it really is. It really is.
I usually tell people, look, if they don't get you, take your 20-sided dice and go to the Comic-Con without them.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Man, thank you so much for your time tonight.
Yes.
I know we've got on our list of questions, we've got so many more things that are on there, and I know the new season is starting up. So
I just want him to do our sign off.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we have a special sign-off that we would love for you to do. But
what's the sign-off?
If you would...
Don't ask me to say it will kill.
No. That's
not my line.
No, we've got that soundbite now, though.
Yeah,
yeah, we do.
That is.
Thank you for your sign-off.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Nah, just playing.
No, man, we would love to have you back on and to talk about some of the stuff that you've been doing. And also, that'd be great.
Nobody can shut me up. So
sweet. All right, so Danley, you had the sign off.
So we were going to ask you to say, "Hey, I'm David Baker from Forged in Fire." If you'd like to say, and you can say, "This is why you should not listen to the Reverend and Reprobate."
This is Dave Baker from Forged in Fire, and you've been listening to the Reverend and the Reprobate. And this is why you really shouldn't listen.
You're the man.
Nailed it.
Thank you so much, dude.
Guys, it's been fun. It's been fun talking with you both.
Yeah, you are awesome.
Well, all four of you to the voice that's in the back.
Voice in the back.
To the voice.
Yeah.
Well, what another mediocre episode from Reverend and Reprobate, where, again, two guys talking to people that we have no business talking to.
No business talking to. The only one of us that was
Matt.
Yeah, the only one of us that was qualified to talk to David
I know
was Matt.
That was the point I was trying to land imperfectly.
And a big thanks to Kyle for making sure that everything was running properly, that everything kept going smooth. We've had so many recording issues due to just technical difficulties and equipment. And Kyle is normally here in front of the camera, but being back behind the scenes tonight, dude, I really appreciate.
I'm happy
really
to be the babysitter today.
Kyle, you're my Jamie.
Oh, what does that mean?
From Joe Rogan. Come on.
See, I would say he's more like the. You remember the kid that was like, I want to be the man in the chair from Spider-Man? That's how I view Kyle.
He lost a bunch of weight.
I did not.
Did he? We can just let our audience imagine that.
Yeah.
So, David Baker, huh?
What a dude.
Incredible.
Yeah. That was pretty awesome. So,
go ahead.
No, you asked him specifically about some things that had to do with forging, stuff that we don't have any real knowledge on.
I was like, do you take the fire and you just pour it on to the metal?
That is how it kind of, no.
So you had mentioned something about 5160 steel, and he told you about this new type of steel, which we're going to have to go back because he gave the name of the steel. What is that? Is that like
I had
the chemical
no
compound?
idea.
So some of it is, yes, it's the chemical compound, like in 10 series steels, which is like 1095, 1075, 1080. That first number stands for something I don't quite remember what it is, but I know that the second number is the carbon content in it. So the higher you go, the higher the carbon content on 10 series steels. I think it's pretty similar for like the 5160. That those two last digits, that's the percentage of carbon that they're adding to that. So like 1095 would be an insanely high carbon content.
Okay, so does that mean that it hardens better, or that the blade can be more brittle?
Both. It can get harder. It can be more brittle. So 1095 is awesome as far as being able to have really good edge retention, being able to sharpen it relatively easy and hold on to it. But if you were using it to hack something, it'd be so brittle that you'd chip the blade or run the risk of like snapping it in half.
So like a skinning knife, but not like a chopping knife.
Right.
Okay.
What makes a sword black? Because he said the blacker the blade, the edger, or something.
Oh,
like
he was
that.
talking. He was talking good guys, bad guys.
The deader you are.
Yeah. Silver swords. They. Yeah.
So I took that literally,
but
and I was like, how do you get a black sword? What?
So the carbon content affects the way that the blade etches, which is whenever they're doing like Damascus steel, you'll see them dip them in something.
Which looks so. I think Damascus steel looks the coolest. That's the one where it's folded. It's different metals folded together, basically.
Right. And then the way that you get that really bright contrast is whenever you dip it into the etch, which is ferric chloride typically. It's just a kind of acid. So the acid makes it turn either darker or lighter. And he said 15N20. So that's actually a high nickel steel. So nickel doesn't harden like a regular steel would, so they added the nickel into that particular type of metal so that it's still really shiny. It doesn't react as much in the ferric chloride etch, but the other stuff has higher carbon content and would be reactive, so you get that really dark and then the really light. So you could have a black sword like you want. Would you just like, higher carbon content gets blacker, so you could get like a 1095 sword. Just solid black.
That sounds awesome.
That does sound really awesome.
And especially it makes somebody deader.
I did.
Man, what an endorsement on black swords from David Baker saying, the blacker, the deader.
I really liked getting to talk to him about the Mandalorian.
Yeah.
And then
I was so surprised.
And then he's like, your geek is showing through. And I was like, oh, man.
Yeah. You got the reference, Mr. Baker.
Yeah, well,
and he brought up 20-sided die,
which I thought that was pretty hilarious.
That was just epic.
Take your 20-sided die and go to the con without him. Like,
man, what a cool guy.
Pretty awesome. Yeah, he was.
I think we're gonna have to get him in studio.
I have to
imagine though, he's probably. I mean, being a weapons maker, he's probably gone to plenty of Comic-Cons, right? like, I mean, just because of all the things.
And he lives in. He lived in Hollywood
in
at one point.
Well, there's also a lot of. I mean, the shows that he worked on, like Legion,
Oh, yeah.
and things like that, where you would think that those are stuff that those are shows that people at cons are going to be interested in.
You guys were talking about that, and I actually just added that. I've never seen that movie, but I just added it the other night to my.
Yeah,
Oh, really?
And I was so excited because I'm like, I want to watch this. This is right up my alley.
It's kind of like a horror.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some elements of. I mean, they're demons,
Right?
But yeah, it's pretty cool.
I was thinking the series.
Paul Bettany's the
Whenever
lead.
y'all were saying Legion, then you said something about angels, and I was like, oh, okay, it's not the same thing that I'm thinking of. I'm thinking,
that's
yeah,
a movie. Yeah,
I
that
Queen
that
of
follows.
Swords.
What's his name? What's the character?
It's in the X-Men. Legion.
Yeah, Legion is the name of the character.
Yeah, it is the name of the character, and it's in the X-Men universe. But
he's Stryker's son, I think, at least in the movies.
Right.
Which I don't think in the show he is too, but both are great. Both are great. I think the season and the movie.
So I'm looking at Queen of Swords, which is what he was talking about that he was really excited on, and it's pretty interesting for a show that only lasted one season.
Yeah,
and I'm now fascinated by this. Like, I want to
see
the
female
weapons.
Zorro.
Yeah, she put underwear on her head, and all of a sudden, people don't know who she is anymore. He's like,
that was a great line.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty awesome. He was really talkative.
Yeah,
which I really liked. He had,
especially after a busy day of shooting.
Yeah, he's been shooting all day, and then in his time off,
I would have been
working.
like, no, I'm gonna go veg out and watch Queen of Swords. But no, it was such a cool guy.
Yeah, great birthday episode for me.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So, what question that was on our list did you want to ask and get? Now you had two that got shut down.
Yeah, I was trying to throw some humor in there, and I think, not that he didn't get it, but he was like, no, not even going to go down that road, which I appreciated.
Yeah, for sure.
He was so concise and so unwilling to compromise on his values, which is what makes David Baker so cool in my book. Like, he's like, I don't even want to tempt fate and see where that might go.
Yeah.
We're going to go ahead. So I was a little disappointed that the jokes didn't get to the punchline or didn't land, and I was just like, that's kind of a bummer. But
we can try it. We can isolate it and try it at the end of the episode and just put it on as a tag there.
I really wanted to know what his process was for the quench, which is one of the biggest parts of the blade failures on the show, that people either don't get their knife or sword or whatever the weapon is hard enough, or it's overly brittle. Because so many people go in there and they're eyeballing the steel, and each steel quenches at a different temperature and all these different things. So, you bring it up to a certain heat and steel becomes non-magnetic. And so sometimes you'll see somebody bring their own magnet, and they'll test the steel with a magnet to see if it sticks. And that's the right temperature to be able to quench it. Another guy had brought salt, because salt's boiling point is at the same temperature that particular steel needed to be quenched at.
Oh, wow.
So what's his approach to the quench?
Right. So what's his approach, and does it differ from blade to blade whenever he's working on because some, like 5160, I keep bringing up because it's such a common metal to use. It's got really high tolerances to where you could have it bright orange or kind of a dullish orange, and it would still harden. Maybe not as hard.
It's more forgiving.
Different. Yeah, it's more forgiving in that way.
Well, it sounds like we need a follow-up episode.
Yeah, or like we need to spend a few days at the Forge with Matt, so that whenever we're like, David Baker, I burned myself.
Why do it hurt so bad?
Matt said that I am supposed to put my hand in the forge oil, and then that makes it more better.
And I would say, which I think would be true to my character, at least on this show, is I would let him know that I'm ready to come on the show.
I threw a hammer at a steel, and now I'm ready to fire the forge.
I'm ready.
And then grind techniques and like the way that he sharpens. I really want to know what his technique and style was for that, because he's making all those weapons that are tested, and to find out that they've already been through the tests.
Right, that I thought was really cool.
Yeah, I knew that he made those, but I didn't realize that they were all tested to make sure that the contestants had a fair shake.
Yeah,
which is pretty cool, because some of those weapons just don't make it at all. Like, neither contestant, their sword makes it out of there.
Yeah. Well, if you remember back to several of the episodes, whenever they talk about the tests that they're going to be used for, it actually shows several of the Smiths doing the tests. And when I went back and looked at those, it was with the example weapon. So they're not like using the footage of them testing the Smiths weapons that, the contestants made. It's showing the judges testing the weapon that Dave made in the same tests.
Yeah.
Whenever they're showing it. That was really
That
cool.
is really cool.
Just to know that all of his stuff survived and that he's making it in half the time and he's turning out not just gorgeous weaponry, but also very high quality for functionality.
It seems like
Wild.
he's got the same or stricter conditions for him to recreate a weapon.
Oh, absolutely.
It's
Yeah.
not like, he had mentioned, I don't remember exactly what he said, but it was 4 days to, okay, so that was earlier on in his career, but he
Right.
said he spent 4 days without sleep making a weapon.
Right.
Yeah.
I get it. I get why he's where he is being the judge on the show. So I think we should hit home again. Forged in Fire, new season. He mentioned a new host.
That's interesting.
Which he didn't mention who it is, so I'm very curious who it is. But
I am,
Wednesday, November 18th on the History Channel, 9/8 Central.
So when this episode airs, it will be this Wednesday. This Wednesday, November 18th.
Yeah.
9/8 Central on the
So
History
we're gonna
Channel.
have to turn this around.
We are, and I'm really glad that he said that he wanted to come back because because I am sure that, so you got a new host, you got a new format. I want to know what's changed. We're going to see all the COVID stuff. He also said that they're shooting 10 months out of the year.
I didn't realize.
I mean, they've got
that.
163 episodes as of now.
Right.
That is over 7 seasons, but still, that's a lot of episodes
Right,
per season. Because
but
there's like, how many were there? It was like 30 or something?
There was
in one
36
episode?
in the last season. He said
That's a
40
long
for this season.
And
I
already
wonder how
10
many
in.
of those things run concurrent. Like how many? And
Just
these are
back to back to back.
right. Like these are questions that we there's still questions we need answered to Steve
Yeah.
David Baker.
Yeah,
But like how many of them do you? Okay, so the first 6 hours of the day we do this one, then we take lunch, and then the next 6 hours of the day we do this second competition, and then both sets of the of the two, right, that have to go create that historic weapon, they're both gone. And so this week they're both, in their week of work so that they can keep on the production schedule and make it continue to happen.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. Because you've got all of those episodes, and then on top of that, you've got all of the testing that you have to do whenever they come back.
And he's got to do all the. You got to do all the historical research. You have to fly to Scotland and get them to open the museum so you can play with the weapons.
Right.
What an awesome life.
It's
He's so cool.
pretty cool. And there is, like I said, there's so many things that we didn't get to. The stuff about the quench. Did you have anything that you wanted to ask that we didn't get? The production schedule stuff was mine because those were the things I was really fascinated.
There were
about.
more, but I'm going to save them for next time.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
that's a little teaser.
Which I am excited about next time. Also, he did mention that we should talk to Doug and to Will, that they'd probably be willing to come on. And
Did you email him?
I think that would be not yet.
Okay.
That'll be my stuff. But that would be two guys that I think would be.
What
really
if we had
interesting
all
to talk
three judges on at the same time?
Well, we'd have to get Ben on as well.
What if we did?
Okay, yes, talk to me.
What if we did an after show like Talking Dead, and it's Talking Fire?
I'm in for that 100%. Where we could just do it live, set up in the living room, and just go.
Yeah,
I think that'd be awesome.
Talk to the judges.
Yeah.
Say, hey, tell us about this. It just aired, or whatever. Maybe the winning contestant is on.
We can interview Doug,
and
then immediately following our interview with Doug, we can have Jay and David and Ben
and the winning contestant.
Well, no, I think we interview Doug, and we have Jay and David and Ben come on and tell us how Doug did during the interview. that would be like that. And then we swap to the next one and do that. I did think it was interesting that he said he doesn't critique outside of the show.
Which shut down all of my questions.
It seems in line with his values, like he was talking about.
I can respect that totally.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's a
It
very
was funny that he
stand-up thing to do, but also
I think
very
it's important to have that separation.
Yeah,
because so many people that are trying to get into like a new hobby or new thing, they have this defeatism that they face.
Yeah, you get crushed immediately if David
Yeah.
Baker was like, "This is a crappy sword."
Somebody that's been doing it for 2 months will crush somebody that's been doing it for 2 weeks. Like, oh, you didn't do this? Why? Noob.
This cutlass will not kill.
Instead of trying to build people up, and his thing was make more. It wasn't, this is, you need to do that. No, make more, because that's part of it. The more you do, the more experience you gain with each one. And he was talking about failing up too.
Oh, yeah.
And it was just, gather all the knowledge from all of your failures and forge ahead with it.
No pun intended.
Yeah, right?
Probably. I think there probably was a pun intended.
Just hammer it out.
Well,
sweat through the heat.
Yeah, and him
How many more
talking
bad puns can we come up with?
to all of them. We can come up with all of them. Him talking specifically, and you're talking about failing and failing up, is the anecdote he told about the sword that he went and picked one up and realized that the ones he was creating were so much heavier than the real thing, and that sparked this whole new.
But he said he cleared out everything. He just
he
threw
just
everything
threw it
I knew
all
out, and that's crazy.
Yeah, so that reminds me. I know you two guys are Mitch Hedberg fans, but Mitch Hedberg talks about watching late night infomercials is like, forget everything you know about carpet. It's like,
Done.
okay, done. Now, and he's like, well, I don't know anything about brand new carpet anymore. You just eliminated everything. But that seemed to be the approach that he took, is he knew, all right, if I'm going to continue to do this, I have been making this so wrong that I've got to start from scratch. And not just that he went and did it, but the willingness to do that. And at this point, it's something that had already been used. It wasn't something that he had to do for the show anymore. They're already past this. He did this because he's that invested in the craftsmanship.
It's integrity.
That is.
It's integrity.
It's integrity. I really think from just like
for a Christian, somewhat podcast, we make a lot of South Park references.
You make a lot of South Park references.
Yeah, I do.
Yes.
I do.
It's a lot.
But I also think to get to the Christian thing is that a lot of the values and the things about his integrity, where it came specifically to how he talked about his fellows on the show, right? His brothers on the show. And also when it came to the amount of care he took in his craft, right? To make sure that, like, this isn't something that I need for anything, but I care this much about what I'm doing that I'm going to go to Scotland and research, and I'm going to forget everything that I knew about how to do this and completely reconstruct it from the start. I think that those are very admirable qualities and things that we as men have stopped cultivating in a lot of ways, not just in the church, but outside of it also. I think that's one of the reasons that, and we are both Jordan Peterson fans. I'm sure you're familiar with some of his stuff, and that's his big push, is that we're not, or I think his big push, that's a lot of his appeal, I think, is this whole idea that we have gotten away societally from the things that we used to value. And
almost demonized masculinity to a point.
Yeah, and whether that is just like basis of integrity, whether it's that sticking together. I mean, we've been brothers your entire life, and
literally,
and but we've been in similar situations where somebody said something about one of the two of us, and we've been like, no, I'm not going to do that. You brought up the South Park guys several times, Matt Parker and Trey Stone, and they have a policy. Whenever somebody from their organization says something about the other one, they call them immediately. So and there's
nothing comes between them.
Yeah, nothing comes between them. And there's a very famous story of a guy who'd been working for South Park for several years, who came in, and to one of them, I forget who it was.
This is Chef.
Yeah, no, it's not. It wasn't Isaac Hayes. But so one of the guys that's been working in South Park for years and years had said something to one of, I don't remember if it was Matt Parker or Trey Stone. He said something to one of the guys and was like, yeah, well, your other buddy said blah, blah, blah. And it felt weird. And so immediately, with that guy in the office, they call the other one. Let's say, for the sake of telling the story, let's say it was Matt. Matt calls Trey, puts him on speakerphone with that guy in the room, and says, hey, so-and-so said that you said this, which doesn't seem like something you would say. Is that true? And he was like, no, I didn't. And they're both like, okay, well, I'm gonna fire him. Is that cool? And they're like, yeah, you're fired. And that guy who had been on the show for a while, had been working with them, tried to do something to get in between the two of them for whatever reason he was motivated. And then immediately he's gone. And David had that, kind of respect for the guys who was working on the show that like, look, I'm having a lot of fun with you knuckleheads, but I'm not going to allow something like this to get in the way of like something with three guys that I don't know versus
schlubs.
Schlubs, I think is what he calls us. Yeah. Versus these people that I really value. And that was, that was really cool. The integrity that it takes to throw away everything that you knew about something that there's no longer a specific, especially a monetary purpose for you to do, but you have that much integrity in your craft that you want to do that, I think is an important thing. And I wonder, obviously we can't all approach this on like a macro level or when it comes to our hobbies or things like that. I wonder if there's, or how big the lesson is in that for us that we can learn and say, hey, you know what? Not to like try to just extrapolate something out of nothing, but say, you know what, this is something that I'm not doing well or that's not as successful as I wanted. Instead of like trying to continue to push in an unsuccessful direction, but is there value in deconstructing this, whether it's, interactions with our spouse, the way that we do things with our kids, the way that we study the Bible, that we look at theology and discipleship and those kind of things, because that's what we're doing at our church. On Wednesday nights, we've completely wiped away everything else that we had been doing, which were these in-depth studies on books. And we are going back to the basic fundamentals of Christianity to say, we never get to the part where we do this stuff really awesome if we don't have a firm foundation to build it on. And that whole principle of what he did there and in those two, the one interaction that we had with him and the story that he told us, I think that speaks volumes about him as a man, and I think that's just super cool. Obviously, I'm fanboying out, but
I mean, we just
take
talked
it apart,
to him, so.
reconstruct it, take it apart, reconstruct it.
The books that you stopped reading in church, did you burn them?
No, we had. That's a fantastic question. Yeah, they were all written by Joel Osteen and Bill Johnson. What we did is we had been doing
and J.K. Rowling.
Yes, yeah. What are they calling her? TERF? Is that the term that they're using for J.K. Rowling?
Yeah, something.
Yeah.
Yes, I think it's TERF. I don't remember what it stands for.
Yeah, it is.
It's an LGBTQ enemy.
Trans exclusive radical feminist.
Yeah,
that's what it is. That's what a TERF is. But
she was branded by LGBTQAnon.
Yes, that's correct. So the whole idea with what we were doing is we were taking a book of the Bible and we were studying it, which is a great way to do it. It's the biblical way to study. It's how the rabbis did it.
The only way to do it, right?
A lot of people do topical studies, and so you take a topic and then you kind of bounce around, which leads to a lot of
out of context.
A lot of things that are out of context. A lot of proof texting. A lot of
sounds like you're literally taking it out of context because it's that.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Well observed. Well, way to forge that path. So we stopped.
Just cut through my sarcasm.
Yeah, slice it. We stopped doing those book studies for a time to focus back on fundamentals because we were having issues with simple questions like, what is the gospel? And people would get really close, right? We asked 40 people, nearly 40 people, what is the gospel? And I had 4 answers that had it hook, line, and sinker, that had all of the elements there, that had man's sin, that had Christ's death and burial and resurrection. We had so many that were close they didn't mention the resurrection. Well, the resurrection is kind of the key piece to the gospel. Paul says without it that nothing we do matters. And so when we were noticing that like this is the things that we're missing out on some of this fundamental stuff, we have to change direction. We have to rebuild the foundation of what we're doing, and then we can build up on top of it. And since we started to do that, not only have we seen a huge uptick in our discipleship, but also in the confidence of the people in our congregation as they're talking about their faith just in general. But it's forced me to do that in a lot of different things. Like I've completely redone the way that I write and do my sermons, because I was like, okay, obviously deconstructing this and then completely rebuilding it worked really well. What are the other areas where maybe we've sunken into bad habits? Well, that was one in the way that I.
Is this going to be your topic for Sunday?
No.
So you're going to start with, I was having a talk with David Baker.
From a guy from the History Channel.
Yeah, he threw away all of his Scottish cutlasses. We'll just put it up here. It'll say, hold on, I got to get the frame right. It'll say, no, this was the name of it.
Yeah,
Italian. It was something Scottish.
Yeah, the
I could have
Scottish knuckle.
It's a basket.
Knuckle.
It's a basket.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that.
Yeah.
Scottish bassier.
No,
basket.
basket.
Scottish basket.
Basket around the hand. Which I thought he answered your question. Clearly, he's thought about the zombie apocalypse.
Yeah, I know.
Oh man,
what a gold mine!
Because
just wandered into.
I
was like, I don't know.
The basket is protecting his hands, so it's easier. You can hit him in the head.
Yeah,
it protect you from getting bitten.
I was for sure he's gonna be like, I don't care about that. I don't know. But he went, no. Here's a list of things that I would do to. Awesome.
Keep your distance,
Super
but
cool.
also have a backup plan with a basket knuckle.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, they can't bite you. Yeah, I would probably stick to. That was so great. We're about to rehash the entire.
I know, right?
That 5
New
minutes
season. New season of Forged in Fire. Wednesday, November 18th, 9/8 Central. And make sure to smash that like button.
Oh my gosh.
Smash and subscribe to this channel.
Matt, reach over and smash his face.
No, but seriously, we hope you enjoyed the episode. Thank you for listening.
Yeah, like and
Rev and
subscribe.
Reprobate, like and subscribe. Smash it if you prefer.
Yeah, thanks,
if
David Baker.
If you want to
Thanks,
just click on it,
thanks,
that's
Matt.
fine.
Yeah, Matt.
Yeah, thank you, Matt.
We
you
Happy
lent
to
us
Happy to talk to
you
David
you lent
Baker.
us and particularly me some legitimacy in this conversation because I think you've got it like a good starting understanding.
I just wore a vest.
But you've at
That's all
least
that
seen
happened.
all of the episodes of
Right.
Forged in Fire. You really love it. I've seen probably at least a couple seasons.
Yeah.
But you really get it and like it. I am a moron. Just in general, but especially with this
I'll
kind of
stand
stuff.
next to you with that, so it's good.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kyle.
You're
Yeah.
welcome.
So
Hey, how's your bathroom time going?
I'm still here, Chris. I guess.
So hey, yeah, thanks very much, man, for coming on with us. Thanks again to David Baker, Stanley. Thanks for co-hosting my show with me today.
Oh, I hate you.
And and then the man in the chair. Thanks, Kyle.
Yep.
Did we do it?
We did it. That's a
We
wrap.
did it. That's an episode. All right.